To die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth. Christ told us in the Gospel of John, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world.
My exclusive sit down with Vice President JD Vance. We talked about the growing appeal of socialism, very disturbing, and Kamala's new blame game. Kamala Harris has a new book out. I know it's dog-eared on your nightstand, called 107 Days.
Real page turner.
That's the length of her campaign. She called you in it a juvenile and a shapeshifter, and even almost called you a bad word, but she didn't write the whole thing out. Anyway, she is now blaming the campaign, her loss, for the fact that it was short. That's one of the main things she cites. She had more time, could have gotten more traction. Your reaction to that?
My reaction is if you look at the polling, both the public and the private polling, the problem is not that Kamala's campaign was too short, it's that it was too long. That when people actually listened to what she had to say, her polling went down and down and down. I think that if we had a 150-day campaign, we probably would have had 3 additional Republican senators, and Donald Trump would have won by an even bigger landslide, because the more people know about Kamala Harris, the more they realize there's no substance there. I mean, agree or disagree with Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, they actually had substance. They could actually articulate a viewpoint.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up.
You know, one of my favorite things to see, and it would always happen spontaneously at our rallies, and thousands of people would come. And it would happen, is invariably somebody would want me to take a picture or to hug their child. And someone in the back would hand that baby over through the crowd.
Up to you?
People who would
bless the baby.
But pass the baby.
See?
And then pass the baby back.
Pass the baby back.
And I don't know, there was something about that when it would happen. I mean, I could get very emotional about it right now, but you know, I believe that we should always feel that, you know, the children of the community are the children of the community.
Yeah.
Of all of us, that
our next leaders, our next thinkers,
and that we all participate in caring about that child.
Yeah.
And in caring for that child.
Yeah.
You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question,
you
would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
and when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch? Or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
Yeah.
And there was just something about that.
And seeing the baby travel from the parent.
Yes, and the parent trusted the stranger that was next to them, who trusted the next person, and all of them as though it was their own child.
Yeah.
There was something so magical in many ways about that, and about affirming, about you can create an environment where people feel safe and feel a sense of communal responsibility and community.
Yeah.
says nothing. Communal responsibility and community. And the baby, Maureen, the baby. And how about that guy deserves an Oscar?
Okay, I recognize that guy. He's an offender. He seems nice enough, but he is an Access Hollywood host.
Okay.
So we're infotainment. We're not.
That makes more. Yeah, because he was giving it to her like, yeah, this is so interesting. He was really
babies coming. So I'm picturing we're at Bagram Air Force Base. We're withdrawing from Afghanistan. And, those desperate Afghans were like the babies over the barbed wire.
Yes.
That's what she's evoking to me. We're bringing a baby. We're passing a baby through a crowd of strangers, and it's going to wind up somehow in Kamala's safe hands.
Oh, my God.
Is America the baby?
I don't know.
Is that the metaphor?
But honestly, what idiot would hand their infant child through a crowd of people in the hopes that Kamala Harris would then touch it or bless it or kiss it? That is absolutely foolish and stupid.
I don't even know if I believe it.
I don't know if I believe it. Yeah, exactly. I had the same question.
Many of us had the blessing of growing up where, the neighbors were watching out for all the kids.
Right. It was a neighborhood. Your neighborhood was the community.
Right.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people.
We have ambitions and aspirations and dreams.
The ambition, the aspiration, the dream. I started my career as a prosecutor.
I was a career prosecutor for most of my career.
Having a background as a prosecutor, I intend to create an opportunity economy.
Developing and creating an opportunity economy.
What I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy. We will tax capital gains at a rate that rewards investment in America's innovators, founders, and small businesses.
She is offering to companies to entice them to keep jobs in America instead of shipping jobs overseas. First, she wants to listen to this. She's called the tax queen. They love her in other countries because she forces everybody out of our country into their hands. The tax queen is demanding a 33% tax hike on all domestic production. Now, you can hate companies and all that, but they fuel growth and they fuel jobs, they fuel everything. You tell these companies, they don't care. They just assume be in Europe. They just assume they don't care. They want to go best price, it's called, best deal. And they're going to leave our country in droves if she does that. It's nice to say you're going to pay 33% more. And one day you'll read, oh, gee, so-and-so, they just signed with China. They just signed with Germany. They just signed with Great Britain is dying to have. They'll give you free tax.
Donald Trump has called out Kamala Harris for one of her new tax increases. We already know she wants to tax your energy, your gasoline. She wants to tax your income. She wants to tax your capital gains. She wants to tax the businesses that you work for. Okay? There's a new one. Unrecognized capital gains. What is that? Never been taxed before. This is if the value of your house goes up because of her inflation, or the value of your farm or land, or the money that you've been saving for retirement, if that goes up in value with the stock market, what happens? She says she wants to tax that gain.
Next, she wants the largest capital gains tax in the history of our country. We've never had a tax. And then she's telling people, build your place here, but we're going to have a brand new wealth confiscation tax. So if you make money, you're going to pay us a lot. But more importantly, it's called an unrealized capital gain. You know what that is? That means that you're going to pay a capital gain even if you haven't realized it, even if you haven't sold. So a lot of people are rich, but they don't have cash. Now they're going to have to get cash because if their thing goes up in value, they have to pay a massive tax. You're going to have deterioration, you're going to have a depression. If that happens, you have a 1929 style depression.
Now, you haven't sold your house, you haven't sold your stock, you haven't sold the land, you don't have any money, doesn't matter. Go sell some of the stuff you own in order to pay it. For her, this is a tax that's opposed by 3-1 by the American people. Even independents, 3-1. Even Democrats, 2-1. Her least popular and least constitutional tax hike.
This woman is grossly incompetent. Grossly incompetent. Think of it. If a company succeeds, you have to sell it to give her half the value. Half the value is going to be owned by the government. So if it's successful, you'll have to sell it because you don't have the cash. It's a huge success. You're going to make a lot of money in the future. We don't care about the future. Sell your company now, and bad things happen. And nobody's tried it. It's a communist kind of thing. You know that? You could say it's a Marxist thing if you like, but communist you understand better. In addition, Kamala is shutting down power plants nationwide, causing electricity prices to soar more than 100%, going up 100%. They will soon be totally out of control. They already are, and businesses will flee. They're going to flee our country. If they can't get energy, they're going to flee our country, and they're going to flee fast.
Where's the tribe?
There's so much about where we are right now that has caused people to feel alone or to feel outside or to feel like they don't belong.
Well, that's a perfect place to kick it off is Kamala Harris. Although we were saying before we got started, I think we're too hard on her. She's the gift that keeps on giving. Like, it's almost like she cares about us the way she keeps offering these little ditties.
It's impeccable timing. It's much needed comic relief. She doesn't know it's comic relief, which kind of makes it even funnier.
Right.
I think.
I guess it's less benevolent than I'm giving her credit for, but.
And this was just the opposite of that. And I hold on to that. I talk about that kind of thing in the book, and I hope that there is something about what I've written and shared that reminds people about how we all felt, because we're still those same people.
That part.
And we can't let circumstances or one election strip us of those kinds of feelings.
Here she is. I don't really know who this was. My team says it's Scott Evans and a YouTube show that she sat down with. She's promoting her book, which I understand you're reading.
I just started. It's fourth grade reading level, yet very, very rough going.
Oh my gosh. Are you having trouble sleeping or something? Why would you be reading the Kamala Harris book?
It's a rubbernecking thing. I don't rubberneck on the road, but I will culturally rubberneck.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested, like the beginning of the book is like getting the call, and it's the fake version of the call.
Yeah.
It's not the like, I started scrambling and whipping people up to my side so I could avoid a primary because there's no other way I'm getting this thing.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
When he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away, or did you ask for it?
It was a Sunday, so here, I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it. There's no such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces, and we had just had pancakes and, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle. And the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. And he told me what he had decided to do. And I asked him, "Are you sure?" And he said yes. And that's how I learned about it.
Madam Vice President, I have to ask you about the part of your book that has people most upset thus far, which is some of your writing about the decision around the president abandoning his reelection campaign, the timing there and how it was handled. You say in part, page 46, it's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. Whose decision should that have been? How should that decision have been made?
So when I write this, it's because I realize that I have and had a certain responsibility that I should have followed through on. Which is, and so when I talk about the recklessness, as much as anything, I'm talking about myself. There was so much, as we know, at stake. And as I write, you know, the where my head was at the time is that it would come off as being completely self-serving.
If you said to President Biden that you did not think he should run again.
Yeah, or even that he should question whether it's a good idea.
And what about the endorsement? Did you ask for it?
He was very clear that he was going to support me.
So when he called to tell you, he said, I'm pulling out of the race and I'm going to support you.
Well, my first thought was not about me, to be honest with you. My first thought was about him, to be honest. I think history is going to show a number of things about Joe Biden's presidency. I think history is going to show that in so many ways it was transformative, be it on what we have accomplished around finally investing in America's infrastructure, investing in new economies, in new industries, what we have done to bring our allies back together and have confidence in who we are as America and grow that alliance, what we have done to stand true to our principles, including one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I think history is going to show not only has Joe Biden led an administration that has achieved those extraordinary successes, but the character of the man is one that he has been in his life and career, including as a president, quite selfless and puts the American people first.
Here's the video. It is a wall of presidents there near the Rose Garden. Everything's normal, right? You're saying, okay, that's nice. Taking a look, you got President Obama, there's President Trump, and look who we have here for President Biden. It is the auto pen, not his picture, but the auto pen.
In our news-making interview with President Trump a few minutes ago, we talked a lot about juicy new details in the pages of a new book by his last opponent, Kamala Harris's book. She writes that in private, you were very nice to her. And she says that on the phone, you called her a tough, smart customer. Did that happen?
Not that I know of, but I was nice to her.
And that last soundbite is where we start with our panel. Comfortably Smug, one quarter of the variety program, The Ruthless Podcast, and Megan Hayes, the former Biden official whose duties used to include trying very hard to keep me away from Joe Biden, and she did a pretty good job.
Sometimes.
Thank you guys for being our first panelists.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So, Megan, in the book, in this Kamala Harris book, she says, before the debate in Philly against Trump, my brother called, Joe Biden called her and said, my brother called. He's been talking to a group of real power brokers in Philly. He offered several names and asked if Harris knew them. She did not. Harris writes, then he got to his point. His brother had told him that those guys were not going to support me because I'd been saying bad things about him. He wasn't inclined to believe it, they claimed, but he thought I should know in case my team had been encouraging me to put daylight between the two of us. Does that sound like Joe Biden?
It doesn't not sound like Joe Biden, but I'm not sure what context this is in. But I mean, look, the vice president has every right to tell her story, and everyone else is writing books. She should too. I, as a Democrat, wish she would not be sniping at other Democrats and wish she'd be pushing back on Donald Trump's economic policies that are disastrous for Democrats. But again, she's entitled to do what she wants to do.
And when you say that that does not sound like Joe Biden, as somebody who spent a ton of time with him, please elaborate.
I mean, he could be very pointed, and I don't know that it was the context of that conversation or when the timing was, but Joe Biden can be very pointed when he wants to be.
And Smug, when you look at something like this, how can it be true? I'm not doubting Kamala Harris's memory here, but how can it be true if all the stories about Joe Biden in the last couple months are that he was in a coma?
Yeah, so I think he was absolutely in a coma, but I think a coma patient can occasionally be angry, and that's the only time you'd see signs of life about Joe Biden, it seems like, when it was time for his family to make money or when it was him to try to convince people that he's not actually out of commission. And it's great that we have Biden staffers still trying to cover for the guy that, oh, that doesn't sound like him. Well, I think it certainly does. The guy was never a good candidate and had to get pulled in the last second.
Our next topic here, the Attorney General's ears were burning last night. The president posted on Truth Social in part.
Oh, Joe's dropping out? No idea that was going to happen.
The shock.
We're just making pancakes,
Right, like I do.
Yeah.
But I think that, one of the reasons I wrote this book, Rachel, is there are actually a number of reasons. One is that it is unprecedented, right? To your point of what you said in your opening, we had a president of the United States running for re-election, 3.5 months from the election, decides not to run. The sitting vice president enters the race against a former president of the United States who's been running for 10 years with 107 days to go. And it ended up being the closest presidential election in the 21st century. And there was so much about those 107 days that, for me, and this is really a behind-the-scenes look at those 107 days, was about seeing people who seemingly had nothing in common coming together by the thousands with a level of optimism and, dare I say, joy about the possibilities for America. And I hope to remind people about that light that people brought to it, and to remind people that that light is still there. And we can't let that be extinguished by an election or the individual who's in the office right now. Because to the point of all those folks who got out and protest about the Kimmel suspension.
And about everything else that people have protested.
Right. In the variety of ways, whether it be going to a protest or being, with their pocketbook or getting engaged in local and state and federal elections, they'll make a difference. And they've made a difference. And I guess the last point is that we've got to really remember that this person who's in the White House promised a whole lot of people who supported him and voted for him that he would do one thing, which is bring down costs and prices. And he lied to them.
3% was our last look. It now jumps up to 3.3%. But from a comp basis, that would still be the best quarter since September of 23, third quarter of 23. Consumption, always important in a consumption economy. It remains strong. 1.4 our first look, 1.6 our modified look. 1.6 would be the best consumption since the last quarter of 24, when it was well above. It was at 4%. Now, the pricing index, and maybe this has more relevance considering all the issues of the day the press is on with the Fed, well, it remains at 2%. No changes there.
In January, when this president showed up to the White House, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate was 3.7%. Today, 6 months later, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate is 2.4%. So we are trending in the right direction. Moving forward, since President Trump took office, for another 6 months, inflation will be tracking at 1.9%. At this trajectory, you look at grocery prices, they fell, energy prices fell, fuel oil fell, ship fares fell, propane fell, butter, margarine, eggs, non-prescription drugs. You go through the list of items that are falling. And then I would also point to that report this morning showing that small business optimism has reached a 5-month high. So look, we inherited an economic mess from the previous administration, but this administration is focused on fixing it every day. And part of that is signing the largest tax cuts into law to put more money back into the pockets of these small business owners.
And we need to remember that as we move forward with the next series of elections. The midterms are around the corner, that it's not just about him by himself. There were others around him who perpetuated that same promise and have not followed through. They're about to go into negotiations around the continuing resolution, the budget. And I know that leaders Schumer and Jeffries are going to meet with the president, I think, in the Oval Office. And good for them to go there and ask Donald Trump, the president of the United States, to justify why he is proposing to cut Medicaid, why he is willing to shut down the government for the sake of
putting on the backs of working people the tax cut he gave to the richest people in America.
October 1st, if the White House and Congress doesn't agree for a plan to continue funding the government will shut down.
Well, we're going to see, but the radical left Democrats want to shut it down. I mean, it's up to them. We have a great economy going. You saw the numbers yesterday. They're fantastic. The economy's doing well. Prices are down. We have virtually no inflation. Everything's going good. We're respected by every nation in the world. And you know what happened? The Democrats want to shut it down. And they want to shut it down because they want to give billions, ultimately trillions of dollars to illegal migrants, people that came into our country illegally. Some of those people are criminals, but they came into our country illegally, and they want to give them the essential over years, trillions of dollars, and our people aren't going to stand for it. They also want to have open borders. They want to have men and women's sports. They want to have transgender for everybody. These people are crazy, the Democrats. So if it has to shut down, it'll have to shut down. But they're the ones that are shutting down.
That's right. The Democrat spin machine, full force all day long. It's going to be all week long, blaming the administration for not funding the government, saying Russ Vought is threatening mass firings are going to be permanent if the Democrats don't come to the table. To that, you say?
Well, he's threatening what? He's threatening to try to find a way to make the government function if the Democrats shut it down. We have to realize the Democrats, their whole argument is we are going to shut down the government unless you give $1 trillion for medical benefits for illegal aliens. The major healthcare reform that we've done in this administration is we've made it harder to give your hard-earned tax dollars to medical benefits for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to undo that. And they're saying that unless you give that money to those illegal aliens, unless you give those benefits to those illegal aliens, we are going to shut down the people's government. It's such a stark contrast between two parties' priorities. We want to put the government to work for the American people first. The Democrats want to shut down the government because we won't give free benefits to illegal aliens. It's such a good, again, contrast for what the Democrats stand for and what Republicans stand for. We're not going to be taken hostage by the Democrats' desperate desire to give your tax money to illegal aliens. We're just not going to do it.
Is it hard,
So we've
though?
put a bill out there. By the way, Laura, the bill that we've put out there that was passed by the Republican Congress is just a continuation of the current levels of government funding. By the way, Laura, I don't even like that. I think the government should be spending less money, but we recognize that we have to, because the Democrats control 47 seats in the Senate, we recognize we need 60 total votes. That means we have to get 7 Democrats, and that means we have to get something that the Democrats can actually vote for. If you can't get 7 Democrats to vote for a clean continuing resolution, if you can't get 7 Democrats who won't shut down the government because they're so concerned about not providing benefits to illegal aliens, then what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to actually, bargain with effectively those who are trying to take the government hostage to give benefits to illegal aliens? We refuse to do it, Laura.
She was speaking in Times Square. Oh no, it was the cut. It was about the other Balulus at the cut who believed that she won.
Oh, the Balulus.
Yeah, but no, you're not seeing any of this, that like she's getting any sort of pushback on her tour from the far left.
Yes, I'm not surprised. I guess the media still wants to run cover for her, although if she actually does declare and put herself in a primary race, that will stop real quick.
Please, please, please.
I know. So you mentioned the Balulus. There is a group of people, I didn't know this, Maureen, until my producers brought this to us, that believes Kamala Harris won the election. Mm-hmm. And, as much as the left criticized Trump and, his core faithful for saying he won 2020, they're out there saying, I'm quoting here, she's the president. She won. They believe that Elon Musk's internet provider, Starlink, manipulated votes. How could it not have been voter fraud? One asked. And they call themselves the Balulu crowd. Why again? It's a riff on Delulu.
Mm-hmm. Like delusional.
Like you're delusional. Yeah. But they lean into that.
Yeah.
So weirdly, I haven't heard this reported anywhere other than the cut. What do you make of this? Is this just an extension of the leftist refusal to believe anything positive about Donald Trump?
It's so strange to me. It does feel like a mirror image of those who sort of refuse to believe that Trump lost in 16. So it doesn't feel
20.
Sorry, 20. So that doesn't feel so strange to me. But what does feel strange is the cohort that were profiled on the cut were like leaning into all of it. They were basically like, yeah, we're the semi-alcoholic wine moms. Like, where's the Chardonnay bar at this joint where we're waiting to hear Kamala speak and they pay for like an hour of getting a bunch of word salad? I mean, I know we're going to
They're like roadies.
They are. They're like groupies. They're groupies. They're groupies for what?
Right.
I don't know what
they
it
love
is.
salad. It's not clear. But can you be semi-alcoholic? That's another question I have based on your comment. I don't. We'll have to find out.
As a sort of talent spotter in the Democratic Party, what do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Mamdani's popularity is strong in New York. Socialist, communist, whatever you want to call him. But his big push is for, quote, affordability. And for young people, and I think this is something you touched on in Hillbilly Elegy, for people who feel like there's no hope, that no matter what they do, they can't really get ahead, they've tried, but they can barely make ends meet, that word affordability, and I'll give you free stuff, is very powerful.
Yes, it is.
What does that tell you about the future, especially if this economy, if this economy runs into snags? Does this message of Mamdani's get more attractive?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans. They're all running for mayor, too, and they are stars. So I hope that we don't so over-index on New York City that we lose sight of the stars throughout our country who are right now running for mayor and many other offices, governor, and so on. So that's where I am. We got a big tent, and we got a lot of stars.
2026 is shaping up to be an election that is going to be filled with Democratic primaries, though.
Well, first of all, we have to give the president a lot of credit here because he inherited one of the worst inflation crises in American history, and we've had very stable inflation over the last 7 or 8 months, sort of 2 to 3%, right where economists typically say that you want it. But there's a lot of work to do because prices got so high under the Biden administration. I actually think most conservatives, where I disagree with a lot of my friends on the right, we make a mistake in dismissing Mamdani as a socialist, as a communist. These things are all absolutely true. I don't care about that. What I care about is why are young people so attracted to this message? And the reason is they feel like the American dream is unaffordable. If you're a 25-year-old kid who can't afford a home, if you're a 25-year-old kid whose wages don't allow you to take a nice vacation once a year, who don't allow you to actually enjoy your life, then you're going to be attracted to somebody who's promising free stuff. Do I agree with the solutions? No. But Laura, we just finished celebrating the life of Charlie Kirk just last week. He's a great guy, but Charlie was smarter about this than almost any conservative I've ever talked to, because he recognized that what we have to do is give young people a stake in the future. Housing is too expensive. Groceries are too expensive. Now, I would say they're too expensive because we inherited a disastrous Biden economy and we're making progress. It's only been 8 months, but we've made a lot of progress. But unless we give young people a stake in the future, we can't dismiss their concerns as socialism. They're going to choose socialism if given an option between free stuff and a bad life. We have to make sure they have an option between free stuff and a real life of dignity, of purpose. That's what the American conservative movement can provide to them. But we've got to do a better job at articulating it, or they're going to continue to be attracted to people like Mamdani.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when budgets, the economy, prices, and inflation matter more than ever. And the future of affordability is a top priority for most Americans. Seniors on fixed incomes feel this pinch the most, which is why I'm excited to share a valuable resource with you today. And whether through these hopefully value-packed and entertaining videos that I love putting together for y'all, or in response to the left's claims, the media's distortions, and the Democrats' relentless, seemingly never-ending pursuit of policies that could harm our country, I'm here to bring you something genuinely helpful. Now, Let's talk about something that hits close to home for seniors, their families, and their friends, and that's Medicare. Most seniors aren't on the best Medicare plan for their needs, and it's true. Many are either overpaying for coverage that they could get cheaper elsewhere or missing out on the protection they need in the event of an emergency. And that's where Chapter comes in. And trust me, folks, they're a game changer. Chapter offers free Medicare help from trained professionals, real experts who are seriously, their job is to take your phone calls. They are waiting to take your call and guide you toward options that can boost your healthcare and financial well-being. And here's the deal. In under 20 minutes, Chapter can view your Medicare options. And if you're already on the best plan possible, they'll just straight up tell you, hey, you're good. No need to switch. No need to change. They're not driven by their own commissions or profit. They are unbiased. But at the same time, if you're not, and a lot of folks aren't, they'll help you switch to a better plan simply and easily. Even if that better plan, even if that one pays them absolutely nothing. And so that's right, folks. Chapter absolutely works for you and not the big insurance nor the government. There's no pressure, just honest, free advice from professionals who know Medicare inside and out. My subscribers have already saved thousands, on average $1,100, after a quick call that gives you peace of mind. So don't wait. Call Chapter at 270-467-2426 and tell them Kevin sent you. And it's just a small step that could make a huge difference for your wallet and your health. And we're talking about a no-nonsense, straightforward approach for which we must appreciate from not only our commander-in-chief, but second-in-command, 48 himself, more than likely, JD Vance, who lays it out, breaks it down simply and easily, and absolutely, completely demolishes Kamala Harris, humiliates her in a very, very, only a way that JD Vance could do. Perhaps potentially even providing tips and strategies, thank you, for the Democrats on how to improve. Now, granted, we don't expect to see Kamala Harris making a return to the political campaign trail ever again, at least not from a presidential standpoint. God help California if she goes that route. But the last clip, the last segment I have here to show you in 23 seconds will pretty much lay it all out for you and for them. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment down below, hit that like button, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next.
I listened to Kamala Harris for 90 seconds, and I actually feel like I've gotten dumber in the process, and I have no idea what she actually believes. That's the problem with Kamala Harris, and it's going to continue to be her problem unless she actually learns how to develop a viewpoint, articulate it for the American people. Just say what you actually believe. Don't do this word salad, talking around in circles. It doesn't work, and it's why she didn't win.